everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today with our sponsor Amelia, we are going to play around with some warm, delicate colors. And we are going to do it on a Knit Picks double-stranded sock blank. These sock blanks are knit with 2 strands of yarn held together. They're 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and you can unravel them into 2 50-gram balls of yarn or knit 2 at a time socks with them. So they're a lot of fun because you'll end up with a matched pair of unique yarn. I'm not just going to dye one blank today. I want to dye 2 blanks, low immersion, in our dedicated steam pan. And I'm hoping that we see some really cool ways that the colors interact with one another. The overall effect I'm hoping to achieve today is something similar to what I did in the Sock Blank Special 2, Random Colors, and I'm hoping to achieve what I had done with food coloring with some commercial acid dyes.
In each of these cups, I have put half a cup of plain tap water. And what I'm about to do is not the way you are supposed to make a stock solution at all. Like, this is sort of the opposite of everything. But I'm going to take a Dharma acid dye, stick the end of a spoon or something in it to grab a few granules of color, and then add it to the water and stir up. So this sort of purpley color that we have here, this is Espresso bean. Stick it in, get a few granules, not very much, a tiny amount, so little it would not really register on the scale. A little bit of that Tangelo. Next, I want a tiny bit, just a tiny bit of Jacquard Brown. And wow, that really does not look like very much at all. I don't want to go back in. Well, the thing with this is that if I need to add more color later on, we can add more color. It's better to start really, really small. And then finally, I want a tiny bit of yellow. I have here a little stock solution of some Dharma Brilliant Yellow. And I am going to dilute it so we can get sort of a softer pastel. Get some yellow. Let's stir it up. Now, since all these colors, I don't know the relative amounts of each that we have here. Certainly it looks like the Espresso bean is the most concentrated. And then the other one, because it's, you can't really see through it, the other ones you can see the bottom.
From a quick paper towel dip, here are the 4 hues that we are working with today. And I hadn't completely decided how I want to arrange them, but I sort of like this way. I think we've got the Tangelo, the Espresso bean, the brown, and then the yellow. And maybe that's the order we'll try to do this, but we can always layer on even more color. We'll just sort of see how this goes and how we want to proceed. I decided to do 2 blanks today because one of them will be for our sponsor Amelia, and then I thought I would use the second for another sock blank technique that I want to do in the future. I really do want to play around with trying to dye 2 blanks in one pan at the same time and just see how similar they end up. And I think that we could see, I think we're going to see a lot of differences here. We're going to see differences because of the way that they are scrunched up differently as I have them laid out. So even if I just do the color straight across, we might have way more of the first color on one than the other. And so that'll be an interesting comparison for me. Let's add 4 cups of water onto these blanks. Let's see where we're at. The blanks were pretty saturated when I put them in the pot. And so this, we've got parts that are sticking up, parts that are more down, which I think will give us some really cool mountains and valleys when we start adding these dyes on, because we will be adding volume to our sock blanks as we start adding on these dyes. Now I'm going to go ahead and add I'm adding 2 tablespoons of vinegar. These are pretty pastel. They'll probably start striking relatively quickly. I'm just sort of mixing things up now. But, you know, I do want things to strike. And as I said, we can always, always, always increase the amount of color. Yes, that might also be increasing our water volume a bit in here, but I think it'll be okay. I don't think that that will be super problematic. So let's turn up the heat and wait till we start seeing some movement on our yarn. This is my first real time mixing acid dyes on the fly in sort of a non-stock solution situation. So I'm really curious to see how this will go. The pan a little wiggle, and I'm going to, I'll have the heat still on medium. Now let's go first with our espresso. I have no idea how well things are dissolved here. But yeah, I'd sort of seen that this is a real purpley color. Maybe I'm just gonna not use all of it up and just do that bit. I do sort of want it to spread more down, but let's see the hue of like our Tangelo, which I have used almost all of that color just now. So I might end up wanting to make a little more of that. I'm not sure how far things might spread. Let's do our yellow. I'm a little nervous. This might be bright, but actually I think we're pretty good. Certainly these aren't going as far as I thought that they might. You know, we still have some white in there. I don't really want white to be around, but I don't want to add too much water too fast. Let's add our brown. I don't want to add too much water too fast because I don't want everything to sort of mix together. I want to give a chance for some of these colors to bind. But I think I'm on target with what I wanted. This Tangelo is not reading very orange to me. It's reading fairly pink. So I think I might want to make a little bit that's a tiny bit more orange, maybe by adding some yellow in, or maybe doing a little more yellow than adding some Tangelo on top. This is going to give us a chance to sort of manipulate these colors on the yarn and layer them. But I mean, I think that these are striking pretty fast because of the amount of acid and ultimately the volume of water that we now have in here. Let me go ahead and add some more of this, sort of going down this way a bit. All right, that is the, I guess, totality of our espresso right now. Actually, I've used up all of the colors. We have our same 4 cups back here, and I'm going to start with the yellow because I feel like that is pretty easy. And do, whoop, okay, maybe that was a bit heavier this time. I'm not sure. Hopefully that's not too bright.
Okay, we're going to do a little more brown. Trying to have just that tip of my spoon. Some Jello. Feels like I got a bit more this time, so I'm going to want to be careful. I guess those were the 3 colors that I really wanted right now. Oh, there's some blue speckles in there. Oh, from our espresso. Darn. It's the thing with not having the colors super dissolved that can make it a little harder to see. Okay, so I think let's do this brown first, because I definitely want the brown to be next to the purple. Oops. Okay, give us that brown. And now I want to layer a little bit of this orange on top of the brown. Then I want to layer some yellow on top of this. Okay. Sort of went for it. It is more saturated than that first one. Okay, I wonder if it's basically all struck. Yeah, it's basically all struck. Okay, and now I want to take the yellow and see if I can maybe shift this a tiny bit more orange. Not entirely sure if that worked, but we certainly have something really, really pretty going on. I am really curious how much white there is going to be, and if this is going to feel speckly or what. But I'm going to let this go for 10 minutes, and then we'll see where we're at.
I'm really, really liking how this is going, and I'm actually going to turn off the heat right now so we can just sort of take a closer little look at it. I will say I'm bummed that the Tangelo, which did give a really nice orange when I had used it before, reads so pink. On one hand, I think it's totally fine for it to read pink, but on the other hand, it's something to keep in mind that when you're going to play around with dyes at a really different level of intensity from what you've done before, that it might behave a little differently. Now that the heat is off, I want to just sort of take a look at what some of these sections might look like a bit. And I'm not really seeing white down there as much as, well, maybe it is white. It's hard to see, but I am seeing some sort of like tie-dye-like effects from these colors, which I think is really, really pretty. So you can see that because they struck more where they first hit the yarn, you can see more of the color in some segments than others. Oh, I think that this is actually really, really cool. But again, I'm really, really curious to see what this will look like once I have them dry, laid out next to each other. How do the color sections vary on each one, because they are so scrunched up in this pan. As for the dye, looks like all the dye is in our yarn. I'm gonna leave it in here for a couple minutes while I create a space to put the yarn, but then I'm gonna remove it from this pan and get ready to wash it once it's completely cool. Now to show conclusively what is left behind, I'm not seeing any bleeding right now, and we've got some glorious, soft, but warm colors. And this really, really shows how espresso bean is a purple, which I did know going into this. Right, but there is no dye in here right now because all the color is in our wonderful yarn. Now it just needs to cool so I can wash it. The thing that acid dyes has really done for me is open up a new world of color. Like, there are things that you just can't do with food coloring. And one of those is getting like a really good pastel brown or a pastel purple. But the big thing is, with food coloring, I have a good handle on relative potencies, how different colors interact with one another, and I don't yet have that feel with acid dyes. But I am excited that I was able to eyeball and pick just some small amount of dye so that way we could create this warm, his soft warm colorway. I just added some dish soap. We have no color bleeding here. So I'm gonna rinse all the soap that I added out of these two blanks, hang them up to dry, and then we'll come and compare and see how we did with these sort of gradients of color on these two blanks that we dyed side by side with the exact same colors. I am only going to unravel one of them because I think that we can evaluate the relative color progression while they're dry and laid out as blanks. So, Amelia, I am going to unravel your blank because as our sponsor, I know you want your unraveled 250 gram skeins of yarn, which means we're going to be able to get to look at the unraveled yarn next to the blank. It's always a lot of fun. These are beautiful. We were able to create two different sock blanks at the same time with some matched warm, subtle colors. And I really like this swirly effect that we got. Here are the two dry sock blanks. And all things considered, they are actually really even overall. So the pinker or Tangelo section, the one on the right's a tiny bit smaller. The purples are pretty similar. The brown is where we see the first big difference. The one on the left has a much bigger brown section, where the one on the right has a bigger sort of orangey, also Tangelo section. And then the yellows at the end are pretty similar. I would have no problem calling these blanks the same colorway, but they are definitely not identical. If we unraveled both of these blanks and just grabbed two of the 50 gram balls of yarn at random, you would get socks that were definitely coordinating, that definitely looked like they belonged together, but the color repeats would be different. You can see at the yellow end, like there might be some more variegated yellow and orange section on the lower one versus the upper one. You know, these subtle differences still could work really well together. You could definitely do a project with all four of these skeins, but if you want true matched socks, this is why you use a double-stranded blank instead of dyeing two single-stranded blanks side by side. I did my best to dissolve our colors on the fly, but we do have some rogue flecks of blue on here, like right there, probably because there were a few particles that weren't completely mixed in to our just sort of fast and dirty dye stocks. This kind of thing happens because some of these dyes aren't just a single color, but to get the final hue, there are a mixture of different powders in them. And so that's why you can see sort of sometimes a fleck of color that might surprise you. Overall, I don't think that this is a problem at all. I just wanted to make sure to point it out to all of you. Now I am going to go unravel Amelia's blank, which is the bottom one. I am going to use my automated skein winder to wind this into two separate 50 gram balls of yarn, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look at what the yarn looks like next to the blank that I'm going to leave intact. I forgot to show the wrong side of both blanks, but here is the one that I left intact. And you can see that we did get some color penetration to the wrong side. Here is our crimped, unraveled yarn, which doesn't give the best sense of the colorway, but you can see that we have these subtle pastel colors, and that unraveling it really did even out the colors from these more mottled sections. If I stretch it out a bit, you can start to appreciate the complexity that there is. I would consider this yarn mottled, maybe not quite speckled, but there are sort of different depths of color. You can see that there are some almost white spots intermixed with some of these pastels. The color progressions also feel a lot more subtle now that you see it unraveled, which is sometimes not the way things feel. Sometimes things feel a little more abrupt or a little more bright when unraveled. I think that we nailed Amelia's request for delicate, warm colors. I think that there is no question that this is a yarn that would stand up well to a lot of different stitch patterns. It is subtle, it is warm, but we do have 5 very distinct colors in here as well. Amelia, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of Dyepot Weekly. I hope that you enjoy watching this video and that you love your yarn as much as I do. As for this remaining blank, I have grand plans for it. So you can expect to see this remaining intact blank appear in a future episode of Dyepot Weekly. The last thing that I need to do to finish off this yarn is I need to help relax that crimp that we saw. And the way that I do that is that I'll go soak it in some cool tap water for not very long enough to get the fibers wet, and then sort of snap them by putting my hands through the skein and just sort of doing like a snap like you might a towel, and hanging them up to dry. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I have never tried to dye 2 blanks at the same time in a pot before, and so it was really exciting for me to see how similar these did turn out with random folds in the blanks themselves. And I know I'm really excited to try to do multiple colorways in one pan in the future. If you would like to have me design an episode of Dyepot Weekly with you in mind and receive at least 100 grams of yarn that I dye in that episode, you should consider sponsoring an episode of Dyepot Weekly. You can find the link to my Etsy store with details about sponsorship in the video description and iCard. If shoutouts and other details from sponsorship aren't quite your thing, but you love the yarn that I dye, check out the rest of the ChemKnits Creations Etsy store. The shop is filled with over 100 skeins of hand-dyed yarn that have been featured in past and upcoming ChemKnits tutorials videos. So this is a great way to get your hands on some really fun yarn and support the channel at the same time. Thank you so much for watching.